Hi, I'm the Paleo PT, and I like to learn from my injuries. And yes, it is possible to get injured even when you're wearing minimalist footwear and have adopted a natural gait pattern. I think it's more likely to be subject to acute injuries, like sudden injuries. Like in my case, I sprained my ankle about 4 days ago. I think it's more difficult to subject yourself to chronic overuse injuries when you go minimalist, but anyway, let's just see what we can learn from my sprain. So, like I said, I took a bad step about 4 days ago with this foot. I just stepped on the edge of a road the wrong way. I wasn't being real mindful of my footing, and I just rolled my ankle just enough to tweak these lateral tendons, mostly back here. Probably can't really see it, but actually I can see it. There's still some swelling there. It's not very painful. The pain subsided really after the second day, I guess. There is still some swelling. It's a little painful just to palpate, like right under the lateral malleolus there. Compare it to the other side here. But yeah, you may or may not be able to tell, but it just doesn't look as puffy on the right side, which is intact. Um, so I've had some. I am prone to sprains. That's one of the reasons why I switched to minimalist footwear, just to try to take away the extra torque of the thicker heel of the shoe. And longer, thicker heel means more leverage, which can place more stress on everything when going into an inversion sprain like that. Um, So yeah, so right before I switched to minimalist, in fact, the event that prompted me to switch to going minimalist and adopting a more natural gait pattern, at least while running, was spraining this ankle when I was running about 8 years ago now, and that was a bad sprain. I mean, it was was dealing with swelling all up and down the leg. I mean, even uh, swollen to the point where it was pitting. For anyone who's not really familiar with that in a medical sense, it's you get swelling that sticks around so long that when you push a finger into it for a few seconds, then pull it out, the indentation remains. I mean, like you actually saw that left an indentation for maybe about half a second or a quarter of a second. My pitting lasted for a good, I don't know, 3 seconds, which is kind of a long time, especially for a relatively healthy person. And at one point I was black and blue all up this leg. I wish I had taken a picture of it to include in this video, but um, um, that just seemed like too much trouble at the time, which is a whole nother topic that I could get into at some point. Um, so anyway, trying to figure out why that sprain was so much worse than the one I got just a few days ago. Also, for perspective, the one on this leg 8 years ago, it probably took me 2 to 3 weeks to get to the point where this one is after only about 4 days. So let's take a look at what was different. Um, Besides the fact that I've had multiple sprains on both legs, both ankles, in some ways that makes me more prone to sprains, just because the ligaments never quite heal the same, and when they do heal, there's going to be more scar tissue, and scar tissue tears more easily than the original tissue. But I think the difference in this case was that I tweaked it just enough to stretch or tear those ligaments, but not enough to really damage the accompanying muscles that serve to evert the feet. That's going into this direction. Get a better view of that, like that. Everting the foot. And since those muscles weren't really damaged, they're left intact, I've been able to stabilize the foot using the muscles to make up for the lack of stability of the torn or stretched out ligament. So basically, when I go to step, which I should have been doing in order to prevent the sprain, I can move my foot like that so I can load it in the direction opposite the movement of another sprain. So really not stretching these muscles out made all of the difference. Now we can go back to what was going on with this leg. So just since this was the one with the really bad sprain, I think I turned my ankle all the way, like even farther than it is now. Like to the point where my foot was pretty much on its side, and my lateral malleolus here may have been on the ground. If it wasn't on the ground, it was close. So that was a bad sprain, and one of the reasons why I had black and blue all the way up and down the leg was probably because I really yanked these muscles. So when you yank a muscle, it gets stretched out. It just doesn't have the same kind of contractile ability, so I didn't have the muscles to stabilize that, and I did it while trail running and probably limped about, I don't know, between a quarter mile and a half a mile out back to the car. And kind of a dumb move, I should have gotten some sticks to use as crutches, or at least take some of the weight off, but my excuse was that I was in shock. So there you go, water under the bridge. But so I did the damage to the muscles and the tendons in the initial injury, and I probably made it worse walking on it for the next, like I said, up to half a mile. So, like I said, it's an injury. Injuries, of course, are always best avoided, but if you're going to get injured, might as well learn from it and try to, well, so learn from it so you can have better insight into how your body works, but also learn from it from the standpoint of prevention. Just because this sprain wasn't too bad doesn't mean I want to subject myself to more sprains, and so want to focus on that mindful movement, being aware of where my feet go, which I think is really probably the thing that serves best to prevent injury and excessive wear and tear on the body by adopting a minimalist footwear and a more natural way of using your feet, moving around on your feet. Anyway, hope this is helpful to someone, and if you have any, if it helped out, or if you kind of disagree with my self-diagnosis or want to hash out some details, please feel free to leave a comment. Thank you. Take care.